And now let's continue with the last lecture of the C++. And we already talked about the basic concept of programming. Now let's continue about how you can just program on your local IDE, which is we recommend as the VS Code. It's most likely used when you're trying to build a lot of projects that is very professional IDE that you can use. So I just wanted to share you another online IDE that it's much easier for the beginners to use. So we can just go to the website, Google website, where you can just go here. So here is an Online GDB that it's very useful for the beginners, where that you can just start with your programming for the beginners. So here that you can have a lot of built-in languages where you have C and C++. C++ have a lot of versions, and then it has 14, 17, 20, and 23. So I would recommend that you use 17, and sometimes require some projects using 20 and 23. But just to keep in mind that C++ sometimes doesn't go down. The system does not really capable when you lower the version. So when you're doing 17, that when you are trying to use C++ 23, sometimes not gonna work when the compilers might tell you, okay, there might be some errors. So just try to make sure that you choose the correct version that for your code. But basically, if you're just a beginner, just a program for some a basic programming, that is going to be no such issue. Let's choose 17, and then the header line, so where you can do, which is include IOStream, and then this is a main function. So the main function including the int main, and then just the two bracket, and then the curly bracket, and then you should do std say out. That is the print statement. So if you wanted to do, so make sure that you have this the less than symbol. That is for you to create like a space. So this space, and inside the quotation, the double quotation, that you can just type whatever words that you wanted to print out. And then once you finished, you wanted to have another less than sign. If you wanted to create like a new space, and you can just do ENDL, and then the semicolon is trying to tell the compilers, okay, this is the stop. And then this returns 0. That what you need to do is trying to compile the entire block for your main function. Okay, so that means that your code has been ended. So that tells the compiler, so this is ended. We wanted to execute up to here at this line. And then the curly braces, that means that because C++ is a little bit different from Python. Okay, C++ is only when you wanted to end up with starting with curly braces and tells you, okay, this is the start, and then this is the end. So make sure that you have the curly braces that close your statement. Otherwise, the compilers will tell you this is not going to work, and then you're missing one curly braces. And then usually for the beginners that you wanted to use namespace std. So this is as a statement that in the future that you don't need to use std and then double colon and then for your statement. This is gonna just save you some time, but only for some beginners. Okay, only if you're, but for the future, if you're building some project that requires you to do the template, then you cannot use this because the template requires a namespace. And then it's going to mess up, it's going to be messed up your compilers that will tells you, okay, which are you referring to? If you have a template, that means you're using namespace, but you just wanted to save the time for the std and then for the statement. But for it also, std double colon is also going to be applied to other functionality. So it's also required this, for example, vector. if you're using vector as your storage, as your data structure, that you also have to like import as SGD. Okay, for now that you can just use namespaces because we are just the beginning lessons and it's going to be easy. But for the data structure and algorithm, I'm going to be using a very complicated data structure that we have to avoid of using this. Try to type the SGD double column. Okay, one other things that I had mentioned in the last section about the introduction, that where you can just go on the website of Google, that you can just download VS Code. Okay, that's the basic, very useful, common tool for the IDE when you are building a large project. Most of the people or software engineering companies are using the VS Code. Okay, and then when you go to the website and you download it, it chooses whichever the laptop or computers that you're using for your project. And then for mine is a download for Windows. And then when it downloaded, and then you just go to your menu, and then you just open the VS Code. And then this is how like you can just the VS Code has been showing like this. And then you wanted to go to the file and then create a new file. The new file you can just name test1 maybe .cpp. Okay, whatever .cpp. Okay, and then later on, because you're creating like a language that is for C++, and then it has to be .cpp as the addition. So you just create a file, test1 cpp, and then you want to first include string. This is the basic header that you have to remember for every C++ programming languages. And then what you have to do is space, and then your int function is like this. So where you can just go here as then cout, and then you wanted to print the whatever statement you wanted to print, hello world, and you wanted to do with start a new line in DL. That means you start here and then return. Okay, return 0, that means you wanted to stop up here. Your main function stop up to here, and then the compiler will be compiling everything up to here. So there's no issues, and then you just wanted to save. Either save by here by clicking file, or you can just do Control S. That is a faster way of short path. Then how you wanted to execute that here, you wanted to go to your terminal. If you don't have, you can just say here. So there is a terminal option on this 3-dot extension. So terminal, you can just create a new terminal. And then currently I'm in this folder and you wanted to cd downloads. cd is the command that you wanted to go to that folder, okay? And then you wanted to test, you wanted to check what kind of current file that you have. So we just created like test.cpp in my downloads, and then we can just say, and we are run in here. So what you wanted to do is you wanted to compile, so G++, and then you want to test one. So this is a compiling command that you have to remember if you are in the Windows. Okay, if you're in the Windows, it's going to be like this. So test1, G++ test1, and then O, and then test1, I think it's going to be exe. And when you compile successfully, then you want it to run whatever. But if you're in Unix system, let's say if you have a laptop of Mac, or if you're using virtual machine that you wanted to run on their Linux system, it's going to be another command to compile your code or your project. Okay, but for Windows, under the Windows, it's going to be like this. For the beginner programmer, I recommend you to use Linux. So it is a good habit for you to program under Linux. Why? Because Linux is more like a highly cybersecurity issued. So when a lot of programs, when it's run under a Windows system or under just a Mac system. So Mac is also one of the Linux system, but it's not going to be exactly the same as the Ubuntu. Okay, and then those, if you have a virtual box, then you can just install Ubuntu, and then you just start it like programming under that environment. That is give you a good habit. Okay, and then we just wanted to try to execute this code. It's going to be dot backward slash and then test1.exe. So it's going to be give you a hello world to execute this code. What if I just wanted to print out a system for other language? Let's see if it works or not. Let's see if I wanted to print Chinese. Let's see if we're going to work. 你好。And we save, we have to compile it again. And we want, so it's not gonna work. Why is that? So on your IDE, this is okay for you select as UTF-A. That is for encoding. Encoding for your language, choose the symbols that is capable for most of the language. If you don't, you can just choose over here, and then you just click save as encoding. So it will shows you all kinds of options with all languages. However, if you wanted to print out over here on your terminal, you need to set up your the system language to be exactly the same as what you have been, what you wanted to print out. Otherwise, the compiler the terminal would not show you what exactly. But what you can do is you can create a file over here, and then a txt file. Then you can open. So whatever statement you wanted to print out here is going to be on your txt file. Okay, and then today, so it's going to be, now let's just review. We go back to our Online GDB. The Online GDB is it's so much easier. That means you do not need to you do not need to actually do everything in the terminal, but they do still have the options. So basically, if you are on this code, and then you just choose what languages you want to use, and then you just click run, and then it will shows you under here on the terminal. So it's much simpler than you use VS Code for the beginner. However, in the future, let's see, if you're building a big frame, big project for a big file, I strongly recommend you must use VS Code, because this is going to be much easier for you to execute your project and build up your frame as a template. For example, if you're using some framework, and then it's going to be very much simple, and then building the database. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and then just subscribe, and we will continue for the next lecture.